Hello again, welcome back everyone. Liquorhound here with you. Thank you for joining me for another spirit review video. And today I'm going to be taking a look at a couple of Armagnacs coming to us from the Delord house there in France. Now, Armagnacs to me have always had a long history of being very, very good values. You can get age-stated Armagnacs, 25-year-old, 30, 40, 50-year-old Armagnacs for well under the price point that you'd have to pay for in the cognac world. And that's because cognac had the advantage of being located near a port, so they were able to get their product out to the world. The demand, the name recognition became a factor in that. Now it's highly sought after, so the price point is up. Whereas Armagnac was more landlocked for a long time, being in the south, and when they finally were able to get their product out to the world, they were way behind cognac. So they've always tried, to me, they've always tried harder, worked a little harder to become where they're at. So they're really good values. For example, this right here, we have a Delord 25-year-old, distilled in 1990, bottled in 2015, that I paid $80 for. Yeah, $80 for 25-year-old. Can't get that probably anywhere else. Now, over here we have a 1981, vintage 1981, that was bottled in 2011. So this is 30-year-old Armagnac that I paid $120, $125 for. Now, the other thing to note about Armagnacs is that a lot of times, even though they're old, they do like to oxidize once you open them, especially these Delords. I know this 25-year-old, when I first cracked it, was really spicy. It was the cinnamon was just out of balance. And so once I got it past the shoulder, I just let it sit there. And it sat for about 2 to 3 months before I started noticing, okay, now the cinnamon is balancing in. And then about 5, 6 months, somewhere in there, it was totally integrated and we were where we needed to be. And then I started gassing it. And that kind of holds true for a lot of their stuff. I have a Marie Defoe 30-year-old, same way. But that one likes a year of oxidation. And it just totally changes the way the Armagnac presents itself in the glass for you. So just keep that in mind when you're with Armagnac. It might need a little oxidation. Now this 30-year-old, that wasn't the case. This one from 1981, I cracked it, spot on, right away. I think I ended up giving it just a couple weeks of oxidation, but then I was like worried that the flavors are going to fall off, so I didn't want that to happen, so I started gassing it. All right, now let's go ahead and get to the nosing, starting with the 25-year-old. Wow, yes, this is nice. Lots of dried fruit, plums and figs, a little bit of raisins in here as well. But more, I would call these golden raisins. The cinnamon and clove are in here. The cinnamon now balanced in with a nice amount of clove. Twinge of black licorice. Mostly find that on the edge of the glass. Red licorice is actually a little more dominant here. But that's just all those dried fruits. A little bit of cocoa powder, I would call that, on the back end. And you can just sit there and nose the oak even. But overall, very, very nice with the orange oils and the red fruits and all that. Fantastic. All right, we're going to check the 30-year-old. Oh, wow. Okay. So this one, I'm getting similar to this one with the dried fruits. Red rope licorice, but not as much on this one. A little bigger clove, a little less cinnamon. But this one has a little tropical element to it on the nose. Almost a little bit of pineapple, I would call that. But not overly sweet pineapple. It's very, very ripe. Almost heading into fermented category on pineapple here. There's an earthiness to it, a little bit of soil. Almost like soil or mushrooms, that type thing going on. There's still a little bit of the raisin characteristic, but not golden here. This is more a little traditional, just the dark raisins. In with all those dried fruits, in with that clove, in with the cocoa powder. and a little bit of a cooked or stewed peach note. All right, really, really nice and intense on the nose. All right, we're going to start with the taste on the 25. And you always like to, especially on brandies, I like to take just a few drops on the tongue, let it prime the palate, and then you take that bigger sip and you let that coat and see what the viscosity is, and you let that go down, and you start noticing all the flavors and how long the finish is. Because to me, in the brandy world, in the cognac Armagnac world, to me it's all about the finish and how complex and how long the finish goes on a brandy that tells me, you know, what the quality is of that brandy. So here we go. Wow. Medium-high viscosity. Tons of... This one has, I get it on the palate on this one, cooked peaches, stewed peaches, dried fruits, the fig, the golden raisins in here as well, and these are golden raisins. Red licorice with the clove, cinnamon, added a little warmth, almost as it entered right before the mid-palate. There was a little warmth of the cinnamon, but it didn't intensify. It just kind of showed up and then melded right back in. Orange oils throughout this in the glass. There's dark chocolate on the back end. Oh, the peaches. Actually, the peaches are really noticeable at the mid-palate point. It's almost like the dried fruits and the orange oils kind of show up initially, and then as those kind of start to recede back on the mid-palate, as the clove comes in with the red licorice, that's when you start noticing the stewed, cooked peaches. And these are fresh peaches, all right, that have been cooked down, so they're not quite as sweet. The cocoa powder now adding a little bit of that bitterness on the back end, but you're kind of not sure, is it the cocoa powder or is it the oak, the old resin of the oak, resinous of the oak that's going on this finish? Which one is that? Is adding the bitterness? It's one or the other, doesn't really matter. It's not too bitter, it's just making it feel like cocoa powder. Yeah, that's what we have working in here. And when you look on the back of this bottle, they talk about, you know, all the awards it's won. Chairman's Trophy, 97 points, 2012 gold medal. You know, they win all these little awards. But that's not important. What's important is that bottle in the glass. How is it? This one's fantastic. I can see why it wins some awards. Finish seems to be really, really long. It does narrow the focus on the finish because the dried fruits recede a little bit, and you can focus a little more on the peaches, the oak, the clove, the red licorice. The figs and the raisins and things are still in there, but more in the background now. You're starting to get a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of that rancio coming in on the finish. And they always talk about rancio in the brandy world or in the sherry world, where it came from, is talking about a profile or a flavor that is, it's almost kind of hard to describe, because sometimes it's like a soil or an earth or a damp cellar type flavor. And it's just the oak, the old oak imparting this. It's like transitioning chemicals in the barrel. And you also start getting, some people will equate it to like a pungent cheese or a tropical fruit like pineapple that's started to get old, and that's adding a funkiness to it. This one has it, and they usually develop that about 15-year-old and older, and sometimes it takes a little bit. And like on the this one, the 25-year-old, I didn't notice it initially. I noticed it more on the finish when it starts. Like now, I'm still chewing on the earthiness, the mushroom soil type thing element to it. Maybe a little bit of twinge of that little pineapple element starting to develop, but not yet. It's not yet super noticeable is what I meant. All right, so now we're going to check the 30-year-old. Let's see if that has developed in this one. Oh, wow. All right. Viscosity, medium high. This one was right at medium high, just a little below. This is more viscous here. The flavors just envelop the whole mouth. And it is a combination of dried fruits. That tropical note that I was picking up on the nose is really overripe pineapple. And it's lost the sweetness. Now it's starting to almost sour or ferment is where we're at now with the pineapple on this one. And that is Rancio. We're getting dried fruits. Orange oils that were here are almost appearing like fine orange liqueur here. They're developing, they're getting richer, deeper in flavor. Plums, figs, raisins now, just the traditional dark raisins, not the golden raisins anymore. Clove is in here more than cinnamon, but it's not out of balance. It's just in there, noticeable on the mid palate. Dark chocolate. This one had almost you could taste really the drying cocoa powder, or the oak was adding that, but it was really, really noticeable. Here, it's more like dry, like a high cacao chocolate, you know, 70–80%. It's not dry. It's just it's not sweet, but it's cocoa. Okay. Yeah, that orange liqueur-ish type element, in with all those dried fruits. Man, it's fantastic. And the great thing is, beyond that fermented pineapple thing, once you get past that mid palate, then you start, just like this one did, it starts leaning on that rancio of the soil and mushroom, and the peaches that actually show up. That's kind of interesting. Were they up front? I don't pick them up front. It's the pineapple thing I'm getting up front. It's here right after the mid palate. It's the back end of the mid palate. The peaches, cooked, stewed peaches kind of come in, join everything else. The oak is very mature and just very, it's almost like a dusty library type element going on. It's just rolling. Yeah, fantastic. For $125. That's the crazy thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're out there and you see Delord on the shelves, don't be afraid to pick them up. There's several other makers of Armagnacs that are equally great values. So just don't be afraid to try them. If they are too spicy, give them some time to oxidize. Keep leaving those great comments. Really appreciate that. And as always, be sure and like my Facebook page at Liquorhound, and check me out on Twitter and Instagram every now and then. So thank y'all so much. Everybody have a great evening, and cheers.